Joe,
Yes, Greg.
um, it's time for a side quest.
Yeah, how come I can only see from your nose down?
Don't worry about what you can see, little boy. This is how it's supposed to be. It's more ominous if I do it this way.
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm putting it together now. So, welcome welcome into a side quest prime cut podcast episode, a movie discussion show aimed at recommending deep cuts, flawed gems, and forgotten masterpieces. Greg, I don't know that our movie that we're going to talk about falls into those three yet, but what are we talking about in this short episode?
Man, there's a movie that just came out that you and I both went to see, and it's no secret that we're Cage fanboys.
Mm-hmm.
So Cage has got a new movie that just came out called Longlegs.
Yep.
It's I don't know if it's billed as a horror movie, but it's definitely a thriller suspense movie. And yeah, I don't know if this necessarily falls into any categories, but this will just be a one-off episode that we kind of plug in because we're both pretty jazzed about this.
Yeah, so we're talking about Longlegs. It was released on Friday, the 12th of July. Both of us saw it over the weekend, like you said. We've recently done a Nick Cage top five, along with Mandy, what we both put in his top five. And this movie has been, I would say, I think you're right. I think it's probably seen as a horror movie, but it's also I think it's actually more of like a intense crime thriller with horror elements to it. Is how I felt after I saw it. I don't know about you.
Yeah. So we'll do this podcast, and about halfway through, we're going to do this with no spoilers. And then halfway through, we'll give you a warning and let you know, all right, some spoilers are coming up. And at that point, proceed with caution if you want to keep listening. Or maybe you've already seen it and you want to hear what we have to say about it. But no spoilers until about the halfway point, and we'll let you know.
Yeah. So the first thing I think we got to talk about is the marketing for this movie is insane. It's so good.
Yes. It's viral in a way that I'm trying to think of the way that some other movies went viral. There's like Blair Witch was viral when that kind of came out.
Yep.
Yeah, that came out. That was like really viral. You know, there was another movie that I think they did some viral marketing with it. The Ring, when that came out,
Sure.
there was some marketing around that, but the marketing team for this movie absolutely crushed it. The hype leading up to it. I remember I saw the trailer in another movie, and just seeing the trailer alone, I was like, "This looks scary. This looks like I actually got kind of, a little frightened in the trailer. I was like, that normally doesn't happen. I had no idea that Nick Cage was in it because the trailer doesn't really show him either.
Yeah, and so a couple of things there. Like, I think it's really hard to be for monoculture is kind of gone. And when I say monoculture, I mean like something that everyone's talking about. It happens still, but with the proliferation of social media, it's so fleeting that it's over. Something will come up and it's gone in like a couple of days, right? And that's why, like when you talked about The Ring and Blair Witch, both those two exactly are the exact movies that I thought about, and those were viral before social media. I mean, Blair Witch Project is like 25 years old, so that movie, it was like you saw the trailers and the posters and you weren't really sure if it was real or not, and it could afford to do that because there was nothing coming behind it really. There wasn't any, the internet was barely around. Now it's like, you got the Salt Bay or the Hawk-Tuah girl, and it's like that she gets like, she's signing a label to got an agent. She's going to be in development doing stuff, which is unbelievable.
I'm not giving her any more press.
I mean, would you bring her on the pod if she listened?
No,
I would.
Yeah,
Come
okay,
on.
okay, I would. I'm a
we'll
sucker
sell out for that. Yeah, come She
Also,
probably
up
was
for
like
any,
Legally Blonde.
anyone that wants to market to us, hit us up at the Prime Podcast at gmail.com.
Yeah, we'll take anything. We'll take anything. Um, so all right, so you get the trailers, which you mentioned, and I think it's really important that you said you Nicolas Cage plays the title character Longlegs, who is a serial killer.
Mhm.
You do not see him in any of the trailers at all. You don't see
No.
you see like his partially obscured face, you hear his voice, you see the back of his head, I think, but you do not see his face at all. And there's multiple versions of this, like promotional content, and it's all like doom laden, creepy, dreading type of film, which is what I got out of it. That's the horror side for me.
Yeah, and they have the Nick Cage's monologue over the trailers, and it doesn't even sound like Cage.
No.
It's like a high pitched weird voice. If I didn't tell you that's Cage that you hear in the trailers, you wouldn't know.
I think that's a good point. Yeah, and so I think we got to let's lay out the basics. We talked a little bit about Cage. We're going to talk about him. I also want to talk about Maika Monroe, but let's lay out the basics really quick. This movie is set in the early 1990s, and they make a point of making it clear like Bill Clinton is the president. So this is like 92 or something, which that I got like a chuckle out of that. I don't know about you.
I saw that. I was like, and what Joe's talking about, this isn't really a spoiler, but what he's talking about is in the movie, in the background of offices, you'll see this iconic Bill Clinton poster or picture on the walls.
Yeah.
And if you grew up in the 90s, you'll remember that picture. It's so funny because you don't really see other presidents after that have done that. I don't know why Bill Clinton was so prolific in pictures everywhere.
I feel like it was in grade schools and post offices, and it was like, oh, this is the president, 41st president, whatever he was. And
very strange.
Yeah. So it shuttles back between the 90s and the 70s. And it's set in the Pacific Northwest, Oregon, I believe.
Yep.
We said Nicolas Cage plays this serial killer Longlegs. He's being investigated by an FBI agent, Maika Monroe. She plays this FBI agent named Lee Harker.
Yes.
And what you're getting here is like kind of an homage a little bit to like these 90s serial killer movies. Like the first couple that I thought of three movies.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
Silence of the Lambs, Zodiac.
Yep.
That's 2000s, but Zodiac because of like the cipher stuff, the code breaking stuff, and then Seven.
All three of those spot on.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing that I got to mention, Joe, is going back to the marketing real quick. The viral marketing. There was a phone number that you could call.
Did you call it?
Yeah. Yeah, I called it.
It's psycho.
Yeah. So there's a phone number you could call, and when you call it, like it's Nicolas Cage talking as the Longlegs character. It's really eerie, really creepy.
Yep.
And then the other thing was there's like what feels like a late 90s GeoCities website that highlights the history of the Longlegs serial killings.
Yes.
And it feels very nostalgic. If you remember those old school GeoCities websites, like the early days of the internet, I sound so old. Back before the Earth's surface cooled the internet. And so there's like a whole like really viral marketing campaign behind it. That was, what movies do that? Nobody does that anymore.
No,
it's not a thing.
It's not a thing. And that so really quick. This movie cost under $10 million to make. I believe
pretty cheap.
Pretty cheap. It opened this weekend on opening weekend at $23 million. So it worked, right? The viral marketing worked.
Any idea what other big movies came out this past weekend? Like what it was competing against?
Despicable Me 4.
Oh man.
Did you see? So there is like
that's a blockbuster.
Well, apparently it is because all the kids love it. But there is a hilarious, like kind of tongue-in-cheek poster that I saw this weekend, and it's black and red, and it's got the Cage's eyes. That's the only visual on the poster, but it says Longlegs, number one movie of the summer, or number one box office movie this month, or something, some marker about, and then underneath in small print behind Despicable Me 4. I thought that was pretty funny.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that's good. So this movie is directed by Osgood Perkins, who is the son of Anthony Perkins, who is famous for being this. I mean, he's in one of the most famous horror movies ever, Psycho. He is the Psycho in that movie. And so I believe this is his fourth major film. He's done. Let me look at this.
Well, I've got Oz Perkins movies pulled up, and the only thing I see that's notable, I mean, and this is a pretty notable one. 2009, he did Star Trek.
He helped write it.
And then he was also a part of Legally Blonde.
Yeah, so these are acting roles.
Gotcha. So he's an actor and director.
He has directed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is his sixth film, his fourth full-length feature. I've only seen one of his other movies called The Blackcoat's Daughter. It's really good. 2015.
He did that horror Gretel and Hansel.
Yes, right? I didn't see it. I don't know. Did you see that?
I didn't see it. That's how I felt about it.
Yeah, it didn't appeal to me. Blackcoat's Daughter is really interesting. If you like this, you'd like Blackcoat's Daughter. It's shot very similar. And I've heard he's been in several interviews, and we're going to touch on some of his comments about Longlegs, but I think he's a really interesting director who undoubtedly will do bigger movies now, especially because this movie more than doubled its cost in the first weekend. Like I'm sure it's going to make more money. It's going to make even more money on streaming. Like he'll get to do whatever he wants at this point, which is cool because I think he's a really good director.
Do you think this movie becomes a cult classic?
Yeah. I think so. This you add it to the list of really, really top level serial killer movies, which I like.
Hey, so can we talk about Cage for a minute in this?
Of course.
So we've said it before, but this is not a movie where Cage is cool. He doesn't look cool. This is completely outside the wheelhouse of anything he's ever done before.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just, he's taking chances. He's taking chances and he's doing things that this wasn't a safe bet of a movie.
Yeah. I heard. Go ahead.
When I remember, right after I saw it, I called you, and one of the things that you told me about that was kind of surprising was that we were talking about like, hey, what's your favorite scene? And I told you, and you were telling me that none of that was like Cage rewriting stuff. He just what did you say?
Yeah, that actually was the point I was going to make. So I listened to a couple interviews with this director, Oz Perkins, and he said that he wrote the script. So he wrote and directed this film. He writes it. The financiers really liked it. He's an independent filmmaker, so he doesn't have the studio backing, but someone reads this and they're like, we like this. We'll pay for this. We want to make this. They like the script too. And they're like, hey, let's approach Nicolas Cage. And he's like, okay. And so they send it to him. He reads it. He loves it. They have a call and he's like, I love everything about this. I want to do it. And Perkins is like, great. If you don't like stuff, like, feel free to rewrite it, man. Like, I really am in awe of your status and your ability to act, like whatever you want to do. He's like, no. I love everything about this. I'm not changing anything. We're doing exactly how what's on paper is going to be what's on film. And that's exactly what happened. He said nothing that Cage says or does is not in the script, which is crazy. Because it feels like, oh, did he just riff on this stuff? Nope, it was written that way.
The other thing about Cage that I gotta mention here is that some of the movies he's done, I'm not buying it. Like, I'm a Cage fan, but for instance, Cage and Con Air, I'm not buying it. That doesn't feel real. But this one, I'm all over it. I think that it feels. It doesn't feel disingenuous, and it feels like earned with the scary parts.
Yeah, one of the things that I've heard about Cage that I tend to agree with as a viewer is that he takes every role seriously, and that says a lot because he makes a lot of films. But what I've heard is that he consistently tries to bring something new to a movie. He's not mailing it in. He's serious about the character and their motivations. He's asking other actors what they think about an interaction or a scene or whatever. You're right, Greg. Sometimes it doesn't work because he takes big swings, right? Sometimes it doesn't work. I'm with you 100%. This works in this movie for me. It does. It's different. It's different from other serial killers, which I think is important to note because there are some things here that are similar. There are some beats here that are similar. And we're going to get into those here in about another 5 minutes of non-spoilery before we break the wall and start spoiling. But, I just think that this movie is aware that it's paying homage, but it's also different, which I think is cool.
Can we talk about the main actor in this movie?
Yeah, Maika. Yeah,
Maika. Yes, Maika. I'm looking up Maika's IMDb real quick. Maika Monroe. That's the name. If I'm not mistaken, I mainly knew Maika from It Follows.
me too. First thing I saw her in. That's her first role.
Okay. I'm looking up some of the other movies that she's been in. I'm not recognizing a ton of them, but as far as It Follows, man, I love that movie.
Me too.
That one is basically, I know that on this podcast, you and Paul had riffed on it during the Halloween episode a little bit.
Yep.
But that one for me, it's really good. It's very campy. It feels very 80s with the synth and the music, and it's got a really creepy vibe the whole way through. It's cool. I love that movie a lot.
Me too.
At the end of the day, that movie feels like a PSA for kids to not have promiscuous sex.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, that's what the movie is. Like, if
It
you
is.
have sex, then the monster is going to come kill you.
Very much so. Yeah. The message is a
Um,
little janky, but I'm with you on the vibe. I think she's great in it, and I think she was like, 20 in that movie. I think.
Yeah, I think she was in something else that I might have seen or I might know her from. Hold on, I'm pulling up her. Oh, the other one I think she's real popular in is Watcher. Have you seen that?
Yeah. Have you?
I have not seen that one,
Really
but I know someone that has, and they recommended it. What's that one about? What's the deal?
She plays a I believe it, if I remember this right, it takes place in a city in Europe.
Okay.
And she is a new transplant with her husband. So she's not really familiar with the city, and she notices that this person is like kind of stalking her, and she sees him like in the apartment window across the way and at the bus stop, and it's very much like a paranoid. It's a horror movie, I would say it's horror. She's great at it, man.
Is it horror or like thriller, like a suspense?
It's kind of both. It's more horror than suspense, but I do think that she has like kind of carved out a lane as like
That's
almost
what it
like
looks like.
she's like the horror gal right now. Except for the other one, I would say is Mia Goth, who was in X, Pearl, and Maxine, the trilogy. I don't know if you've seen those.
I've heard a lot about them. I have not seen those.
I
And
haven't seen the newest one that's out, but the first two are really good. And those two actresses, Maika Monroe and Mia Goth, are like the horror like queens right now. They're really good.
just looking at that list, yeah, Watcher, It Follows, Longlegs, yeah, they're of the same vein.
Mm-hmm. She's awesome in Longlegs. She's the main character. She's in pretty much every scene of the movie. She plays this extremely intelligent, kind of introverted, analytical FBI agent who is basically selected, and we're going to get into why in a few minutes, selected to be the lead investigator in this Longlegs string of murders, which has occurred over the course of 20 years. And it's following a pattern. It's tied to certain dates. He always leaves a note, a cipher, like a code and he's never there committing the crimes. That's what I think is different about this one. He doesn't commit these crimes. He somehow manages to convince, whether by brainwashing or something, a average family. He convinces the father in the family to murder the wife and children, basically, and nobody can figure out how he's doing it.
Shall we jump into the spoilers?
I think so. So I think at this point, if you haven't seen Longlegs, go see it. It's worth it. It's really good in theaters. I would see it with a crowd because crowd reactions, I think, for some of these really high level horror movies are cool. We got that when we went to see it. So moving forward, we're going to spoil this movie. So give yourself some time. If you don't want to know what happens, we're going to lay bare this whole movie. So pause this, come back to it. Follow us on Insta, prime_cut_podcast at gmail.com. We got to talk about our YouTube too, Greg. That's coming up for season 4. But we're going to give you a couple seconds to pause, and we're going to jump in. So let's hold the air for a second here.
This is the spoilers. The spoilers are coming. The spoilers. Anyways, Joe, let's spoil some things.
Let's go. First of all,
yeah, go.
Dude, the first 5 minutes of this movie.
That's where I was going. Yes.
Okay. All right.
So the instantly the movie starts, and right out the rip, we meet Longlegs. But you don't get to see him fully. Like, he pulls up in a car off in the distance, and a little girl kind of sees him, and then she goes out to kind of inspect the car. Then he comes out from behind the house, and when you see him, like, you only see from his mouth down, like that, like the way that we started the intro of this. And so I took that as the little girl is seeing it from her perspective.
Me too.
But it also, because it does that, it gives it a really creepy vibe, because kind of like the way that Jaws was scary because you don't see the shark.
Yeah.
You just know it's there. Your mind is scarier than anything that can be, at least my mind is scarier than anything I could see on TV. So the way that it feels so ominous is really scary to me.
It's riveting, man.
Yes.
It's riveting. And you're seeing this, it just, you're like, this is bad. It's snowing. It's like there's like white snow.
So much white.
He's wearing all white. He has long shoulder length white hair, and he's got like a ton of like white makeup on. Looks like I don't even know what, like a doll.
He looks like a Dollar General Marilyn Manson.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And he's talking to this child, and he's kind of got this weird, like, sing-song, high-pitched voice. And suddenly the camera, like, flips up to his face, and he's like, I don't even remember what he was doing. Was he singing or screaming?
Yeah. I think he was like singing, and it was just so eerie.
Yes. And then, like, there's like audio, there's like sound. It's you were like grabbed right away.
Can we talk about the intro? The way that it felt very nostalgic to Joe. It felt like 70s movies.
Yeah, which I love.
It felt like a 70s movie with like this red screen that was just slowly getting bigger.
Yep.
All the way through.
Yeah.
And the intro just felt like the intro, just with nothing on it, with just the words, was scary.
Well, so are you familiar with that song?
No.
The T-Rex song.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I couldn't remember what song it was. Yes.
Probably everyone who's listening to this has heard that song. If you haven't, pull it up and you'd be like, oh yeah, I know this song.
Just play it.
We'll drop it
here.
Yeah.
Just drop the chorus right here. There you go.
People will be like, oh yeah.
I know the song.
They put the first stanza of lyrics on the screen, and I knew the song and I know the lyrics, but I didn't really know them, and they're creepy.
Yeah. They
talk about like teeth of the Hydra, and you're like, what the fuck? And then, but the song is like really upbeat, like pop rock. And so it's juxtaposed with like, you've already been grabbed by this really unsettling, eerie, like interaction where you know that we already know this guy is bad, and he's kind of interacting with the child, which is weird. You hear the song, and then you see the lyrics, and you're like, oh, I was like, oh my god, that's the T-Rex song. Those lyrics are weird. And then they play the song, and you're like, oh shit. It's just like genius level how they weave that in, where it's like, this shouldn't be scary, but it is.
Yeah.
Like, I'll
Yeah.
never hear that song again and not be like, oh, fucking Longlegs.
The song has been hijacked by this movie. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I can see that. So the next scenes we get, it's basically shows the FBI, and they're talking about old-fashioned door-to-door knocking. They're looking for someone.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I like, I don't know anything to go off of yet. And immediately I was like, oh, they're looking for Longlegs. But that was not actually the case. That's not actually what they were looking for. And they pull up to this really generic looking suburban neighborhood, because that's where our main protagonist is going to go, door to door knocking with her FBI partner. Mm-hmm. This part feels very much like Silence of the Lambs, because we've got like the FBI looking for a serial killer or something like that.
That's right.
Anyways, she stays in the car. He gets out. He goes knocking. Then she just starts staring at one house specifically and all of these nondescript houses. She gets out of the car. He comes back over and she says, that's the house.
I think it's that one.
It's that one. Yeah.
He's like, what do you mean? We haven't even talked. We haven't even knocked on the door. How would you know? And she's like, I'm telling you, it's that house.
She's like, call it in. He's like, I'm not calling it in off of a hunch. So they go, and man, this part totally caught me by surprise. Scared the crap out of me. I think it scared the crap out of everyone in the theater. They knock on the door. She's standing back a little bit, and they're waiting for the door to answer. And then the door answers. Gun comes out. Pop, kills the guy. Whoa!
Kills her partner immediately.
That felt to me like The Hills Have Eyes. The way that they like kill someone right away, and it basically says like all bets are off. That no one's safe.
That's right. Yeah, and so then she immediately like goes into the house. She's clearing this house. It's weird. It's empty. There's nothing in it, but there's plastic wrap over everything. It's creepy, weird. And she finally gets upstairs, and this guy's sitting on the bed, and she's like, "Don't move." And he puts his hands up, and you're like, "Is this Longlegs?" And it's not.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought as well.
Right. So immediately you're kind of given. They let you know there's something different with her. And she's also very capable. So you're like, she's got this like weird premonition thing, and she's also not scared, and she's very like able to handle this.
I don't know if she wasn't scared, Joe, because she felt really scared going into that house. I think that maybe brave would be
courageous.
Yeah, I would say she's courageous because I wouldn't have gone in that house. I'd have been all, I'm calling this in.
And she, I think that Maika Monroe in that scene for sure does a great job of conveying both of those things. She's like clearly freaked. She's looking at her partner who's like got a hole in his head, blood pooling, and she immediately like, she's like breathing hard. It's obvious that she's has like a lot of anxiety and terror, but she's handling it. And so you're like, okay, I like her, and she's good at this right away, which is cool. We got to talk about Blair Underwood, dude.
What would you like to say about Blair?
He's just been kind of gone for a long time, and he plays her, like the special agent in charge of the investigation. So he's basically like her boss. Yep. He's awesome in this movie.
I agree.
He was so good.
Basically, it jumps to I think it jumps back to her working with the FBI and her boss. And basically they start talking about like bringing her on to the case.
Yeah. Because she did so well. She had this weird feeling, and she handled this thing well. And he was like, something's going on with you. Like, we need to use you on this Longlegs case that we can't figure out.
Yeah. And he puts her through like a test, and she aces it.
Which was crazy too. That test, which was like, show me what. Okay, it was like? She's in a room. They're flickering
Images.
shapes and colors, and they're like, first word that comes to your mind type of thing. And then they give her a series of numbers, and they're like, guess the number 1 to 100.
Yes.
And
She
later
guesses
on,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
so she guesses it right. I guess she on the 8th try she guessed it right. And they're like, and she's sitting with another agent and Blair Underwood because they're like, you're doing the Longlegs case, and they're both like, how did you guess that? Or they're like, we can't believe you got it right on the 8th try. And she's like, I got it wrong on the first 7. Or something like that, where it's like, but again, we have this, there's something here where it's like this, she's got something else other than just being like smart and capable.
Yep.
But it's not, they don't explicitly tell you, like, she's not a psychic, she's not, there's no magic here that we know of, but something's different with her.
Yeah, that was cool. So they put her on the Longlegs case, and then they take her to a house, and the house they go to was apparently a killing from the Longlegs murder.
Mm-hmm.
And they go to the bedroom, and it was basically they start showing the family, and they've got them covered up, and they're like, "Are you ready to see this?" And they're like, "Yeah, show her." They're like, "It's pretty gruesome," and they're
And
like,
it is.
"Yeah, yeah." And they pull the blanket back, and there's like bodies with maggots and stuff like that. And her boss like splits out of the room, but she doesn't. She stays. She keeps looking at it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the first like 20 minutes of this movie is like a straight procedural, right?
Yes.
We are following this person investigating this crime, and we have she's going through crime scene photos. She's looking at dossiers of descriptions of the murder scenes. She's reading about these families in the newspaper where the father snaps and kills the family, and there's a note from Longlegs there. Did you notice? So one of the things that I really liked about this movie is the camera doesn't move very much.
I noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of times it'll be like the camera will be on her back as she's walking somewhere, and that's it. Or it'll be on a scene and it's the actors are moving in the scene, but the camera doesn't cut around them. It's just like you're looking at them like you were there.
So that reminds me of I play a lot of video games, and it feels very reminiscent of early Resident Evil video games.
So I don't play a lot of video games, but I remember Resident Evil from when I was in high school, and that first game like scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, and the part of what was scary about it is that most games nowadays are in first person or over the shoulder view. Mm-hmm. Resident Evil didn't work that way. It had fixed cameras in different positions. Mm-hmm. And so, again, what you couldn't see was more scary because it's your own mind.
Yeah.
And that's what this movie does a lot of.
The movie does a great job of this. And the other thing that I liked about it is did you notice there's no people in this movie anywhere?
Yeah. Yeah, it's desolate. Like I'm curious as to if we actually went down the cast. I'm looking at it right now, and it's 12, 15. It's 16 people are listed as the cast for this movie,
and they probably all have speaking roles because there are so many shots of this movie where they're in a neighborhood, they're walking up to a house. There's no cars driving by. There's no people standing around. There's no one walking their dog or raking their leaves or shoveling their snow. It's like abandoned, but there's people there, but there's no one there at the same time. And I think that just adds to this like doomed feeling where you're like, man, I'm unsettled the whole time. And really it, like, as we get deeper into the investigation, it makes it worse.
They could have just like lined it up, put an ice cream truck driving by, put some homies with some subs in the trunk.
Yeah, nothing. There's no sign of like humanity, really.
Yeah, the whole way through. It just feels like dread. It feels like dread. And the score of this movie kicks ass.
It's so good.
Yeah, the score is really good. I like it a lot.
Yeah, and so we get Lee. She has we learn that she has like kind of a weird relationship with her mom, right? Where she's like calling her on the phone. There's obviously something wrong with her mom, or her mom's maybe you get the feeling her mom's like a shut-in or she's sick or something.
Something's not right. Something's not right.
Something's not right.
You get that scene in the log cabin house where she lives.
I just got chills right now just thinking about it, dude.
Why'd you get chills, Joe? What happens?
So first of all, she's spending like an inordinate amount of time studying this case, and she ends up figuring out that all these crimes are happening like on a certain day, and there's a pattern to when they happen. And
14th.
The 14th of each day is the girl's birthday, and that's when the child in the case has a birthday on the 14th, and those are like connecting these families throughout the course of time, because this has happened over like 20 years.
Did you ever see the movie Sinister?
Yeah.
With Ethan Hawke?
Uh-huh.
That part feels reminiscent of Sinister. So if you haven't seen that, that would be another movie that that's got like a feel to this. The later Sinister movies are absolute dog water. I've seen them all. But the first one's great, though. The first one's great.
Yeah. It was like one of the early Blumhouse movies, too. It's really good.
You will never look at lawnmowers the same.
No, you will not. So the log cabin scene, she gets back to her house, which is, it's like this Pacific Northwest style, very dark paneled wood house. It's dark, of course. She gets home, it's late at night. And she's talking to her mom on the phone, and she's like, I'm not going to see this weekend or something. There's a weird relationship. It's clear there's something going on. And she looks outside, and there's someone outside. And immediately she goes outside with her gun.
She's just acting. This is like, I don't know what's worse in this scenario. If she were to be like, oh my God, there's someone outside, I'm going to lock the doors and run upstairs. Or I'm going to go outside and leave the front door open to go see what's going on.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Greg. I agree about the leaving the door open. I did.
What? Oh, you agree. Gotcha. Yeah.
That's like, come on. But the fact that we've already seen her confront this other serial killer, or the other guy they were looking for who killed her partner, at least gives you enough belief in her character that, like, okay, she's capable of going out there with her gun and looking for this person. And when she's out there, you see that there's someone now. The camera, and this camera, Osgood is a master of this, I think, in this movie, where the character doesn't know what's happening, but behind them you see there's someone in her house now, and we see it, but she doesn't see it.
Yeah, you see like a body walk by one of the windows.
Yes.
And I just got to say this too, like, just because you can doesn't mean you should go see what's going on all the time. Just leave it alone. It's all good.
Yeah, for sure. Because she goes back in and finds that there is a letter addressed to her and a cipher.
Yes.
And it's signed Longlegs.
Oh, my favorite part about this is she opens up the letter and the ink is still wet.
Yes. And they make a point of her like dragging her finger on it.
Like, yeah, she touches it so you can see that it's still wet. That's such a cool detail to throw in there. Like, you didn't need to do that, but the fact that you did it, like, it's such an eerie detail, knowing like this is freshly written.
Just wrote this.
Now it might have been the pen on your own desk used to write it.
Yeah. Oh shit.
Like,
right.
the gall of this guy, bro. Yeah. I gotta say, Longlegs sounds a little unprepared, bro. Just write it before you go. What are you doing? This seems very impromptu and unprepared. I'm just saying that failure to prepare is preparing to fail, Longlegs.
It could be. So do you remember how she cracks the cipher? It's very Zodiac-y, but she figures out that one letter appears a bunch of times and breaks it from there, which gives her she's got that letter, and now she can break all the other codes because they've never been broken, which she does. And she's now okay. So there's two things. She's now like pretty far along in the investigation on her own, like basically like making huge strides. there's a scene when she's doing that, and she's already felt comfortable enough that she's back by herself in her own house, but the camera sits on her. She's in the foreground, kind of like writing, scratching out notes, and behind her is like the open doorway to the rest of her house. And you're like, is he still in the house? Is he still there? Is someone going to come out of there? No one does, which is almost better.
I agree. You don't get like a cheap jump scare.
Yes. There are scares in this movie, but the movie earns all of them, I thought. Never was I like, oh, they're just playing on my emotions here. They build it to where you are legitimately have this doom feeling. And if you're scared, it's because of that. Like, it works for it.
Right. So many movies. The classic case of this is someone goes to the fridge, they open the fridge door, and then when they close the door, the baddie's right there. This doesn't happen in this. It's like that's like it's got its place, but this is not that type of movie. And don't get me wrong, like that type of stuff will startle you because they hit you with a loud noise and whatever. This builds up to that, and here's the best way I could describe it. Imagine you're in a car and someone hits the brakes. And so you lean forward. But then the force of the vehicle never lets up. So you never get to go back.
That's very good. Yeah. You're like on this state of tension the whole time. Yeah. And you get it, again, back to the first 5 minutes, you get it right away because it's like, I'm unsettled and this movie has just started. There's no way that I can get back out of this. I couldn't, dude. I was like, I kind of have to go to the bathroom, and I didn't leave.
Same. I was like, I don't want to miss any of this.
Yes. Okay. So like, what are some other big plot beats? We basically find out that somehow her mother is connected to Longlegs.
Yeah. She goes to her mom's house, and like you meet her mom in person, and I got the feeling that her mom was a hoarder. Is that the vibe you got?
Oh yeah.
Okay. There's like junk everywhere.
Yep.
And eventually, somehow her boss figures out that Longlegs potentially like was connected to her.
Well, so remember this. He's like, and this is Blair Underwood. He's like, you didn't tell me that your birthday was the 14th.
Oh, he figures that part out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, we looked at some notes, and it turns out that your mother called in a prowler, a trespasser, on the 14th. He's like, she may have seen, and I guess like there was like a murder right near them, a Longlegs murder in their like community. And he was like, go talk to your mom. She might know stuff.
You get the flashback to her 14th birthday, and then you realize that the little girl at the beginning of the movie is Lee. Yes. And then the way that all of that goes down, like they live down like it seems like a road where there's not a lot of houses, like a country road, and then you feel like someone's about to show up. Man, that part was actually like peak tension that never actually delivered the scare.
Yeah, which is great.
That part startled me. I was like, oh my God, like if I had a heart monitor on, you would have seen my heartbeat go up in that scene. Yeah. Because I thought you were about to get like the first interaction with Longlegs, and her mom's like trying to use the phone, and the phone's disconnected, and then she goes and gets her double-barrel shotgun, and you see a car pull up in the driveway with the lights.
This is the flashback.
This is all the flashback.
Yes.
And all of that is so scary, and then it flashes forward.
Right.
And she's got to go visit her mom.
Yep.
So she does.
She does. And that's when we learn that she's like, well, maybe there's some stuff. Maybe you have this. There's all kinds of things from your childhood in your room. I haven't touched it. And so Lee gets this like chest, which has like memorabilia and, clothes and dolls, whatever. And she gets this photo stack of Polaroids. And it turns out that she took a photo of Longlegs.
Yeah. So now they've got a picture of him. She takes it to her boss.
She's like, this is him. He's like, how do you know? She's like, I'm sure. And it turns out that it is because they arrest him.
That part kind of caught me by surprise because there wasn't a lot of fight put up to arrest him.
I liked it.
He was like at a bus stop.
Yeah.
Just kind of waiting to be arrested.
I liked it.
With his
Like
briefcase.
he puts his hands up before they even get close to him.
Yeah.
Like the cars are coming. He can hear the sirens in the distance, and the camera's on Cage's face, and it just like slowly pulls back, and he just puts his hands up, and their cars are like miles away, which I thought was like, oh, this guy wants to be grabbed.
Yeah. So they take him down to the police station, and this part was so unsettling.
Fucking crazy.
It was so unhinged. They go in and they kind of talk to him, and then Lee gets to go in and talks to him.
So first of all, hold on. We described him a little bit, but he's got like long, stringy white hair to his shoulders.
Yep.
And what I thought was like bad plastic surgery on purpose, this is a person who has gotten plastic surgery to change how he looks for like a glamour reason, and it's terrible. Right?
Yeah, it was bad.
I mean, you can kind of tell it's Cage, and I feel like I'm a Cage expert, so I was like, oh, I can tell his eyes, but his face is unrecognizable. I mean, his cheeks are like pulled up and back, his chin is different, his eyebrows are peaked. He looks like a mask of, I don't even know how to describe it. It's so crazy looking.
I want to know who did the plastic surgery so that we can leave a bad Yelp review,
right,
because he needs a refund on that.
He needs a refund. And it's probably been multiples, right? Like he's been cut a couple times. It looks bad. Mm-hmm. Okay, so one thing that we got to talk about, because we talked about the marketing a little bit. The marketing for the scene, because we get this interrogation scene where they interview him, and the kind of the staff, the FBI staff, is watching him being interviewed, not by Lee yet, and he's acting like a fucking maniac, like singing and just saying weird stuff. He starts crying. I mean, he's like pathetically, disgustingly weird and scary and creepy. And I love this scene when they pause it on his face on the screen, because they're watching it on like the old TV that like your teacher rolled in when it was movie time, like the cart with the TV that was like strapped down.
Yeah.
The whole FBI little group is watching it, and they pause it on his face, and then they're like, okay, and they're like going through business of like, all right, we got to do this, we got to do that, and as a viewer, you can't help but just like be riveted on this crazy person that is locked on the screen on the movie. It's genius. Again, the way he sets this up, Osgood Perkins has just done a great job of making this like feel so creepy all the time.
The whole way through. He's caught, and it still feels very creepy.
Yeah, he's handcuffed in a locked room.
Yeah. That reminds me of like Christopher Nolan's Batman when the Joker gets caught. It's like this feels kind of like he wanted to get caught.
Is he in control, really?
Yeah, is he really still? Is this part of his plan?
Yeah. So now you get the scene where she goes, because he's like, I want to talk to Lee, and he's like doing this weird voice.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, Harker, you're up. And they used this scene in a trailer, in like a preview. I think I sent this to you, didn't I, about her heart rate?
Yep.
Oh my God, fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So the whole scene, the scene that you get in the trailer is that scene where she is walking in to this interrogation room, and there's like text over the screen that says, and first of all, the audio is her heart rate, her heart beating. And it says like Maika Monroe's resting heart rate is like 74 beats per minute. She has not yet seen Nicolas Cage as Longlegs in character, has not spoken to him yet at the time of this filming. This is the first interaction she's having with this character. And the heart rate like starts to go up, go up, go up. And they said, we use this clip to show how intense this scene is in the film. And her heart rate goes to like 180. It's like,
that's
hammering.
Wild. And
then they show you Cage in the trailer, but they put a black box on his face. You can't see him, which is like, again, genius. So smart. In the movie, of course, you do get to see him, and you're like, holy fuck.
Yes. He looks so unhinged here. I can't emphasize that enough.
No.
He just looks absolutely wild.
Yes. And so she talks to him for like a minute or two, and he's like, ask your mom. He keeps talking about her mother. Ask your mommy. Ask your mommy. And then he fucking, what happens, Greg?
Dude, he just full on starts headbutting his face on the table just repeatedly, and just starts getting bloodier and bloodier until like his whole nose falls off.
He like caves his face in, his own face.
He caves his own face in, and then he's dead.
Yeah. And she's like got
Which is,
blood on him, blood on
oh,
her.
it splatters all across the walls.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
Yes.
And
So,
they're like mad at her too. They're like, how come you didn't get anything else out of him? She's like, what?
Sorry, bud. What was I supposed to do?
Yeah, and we kind of left out the dolls stuff, which I don't want to get too deep into because I want people to be able to like see that for themselves, because there's like a creepy doll that's involved that's fucking weird.
Hey, it looks like the type of dolls that when you lay them down, like their eyes close, and then when you pick them up, like their eyes. Hey, my brother used to do this prank to my cousins. If you haven't seen these dolls, they're exactly that. You lay them down, and the eyes close, and then when you pick them up, the eyes open, and they're like marble eyes. Yeah, they like. It's real creepy. Mm-hmm. My brother used to color those in with a red marker.
Oh my!
So then you go pick it up, and then boom, it looks like a possessed doll.
Oh my god!
Yeah. Anyways, that's from times long gone. But
yeah,
yes.
Well, there's a whole thing with that, and basically, we learned that Longlegs is like a doll maker.
Yes.
And this is part of how he gets people to commit these heinous murders, basically. And then we get more and more and deeper into the mom situation.
Oh, this part just blew me away. Yeah. Literally.
Yeah. So basically, we find out that they're like, you got to go back. Your mom knows more.
Take your buddy over here. We got someone to go with you. They show up to the mom's house. Buddy waits in the car. She goes inside looking for her mom. She can't find her mom. The buddy's like looking at the house, trying to see what's going on. And again, that stationary camera, you see someone walking by the back of the car. Comes around the driver's side window. Boom! Lights her up with a shotgun.
Yep.
Lee runs over to the window and sees the mom on the other side. Boom! Blasts her again a second time. That was so startling. Then the mom, I guess, takes off in her car. So Lee has to like run outside, jump in. What she pulls, I think, let me know if you caught this. She pulls the cover off the car, and it's the same car from when she was a kid, and she saw Longlegs parked outside her house.
Yeah, and the basement that he was building all the dolls in is it's the mom's basement, because it turns out that morning when he shows up and sees Lee, he basically cuts a deal with the mom where he's like, I won't kill your daughter if you have to help me basically distribute these dolls that have these that are going to help brainwash people into killing their families, and you are going to be like the conduit. I'm going to have you like show up and you're going to say, oh, you won this doll, let me into your house, and it's going to brainwash your family, and your father's going to kill everybody.
Well, they don't say that, but they say, hey, I'm from the church, you just want a prize.
Right. So then we remember that Lee has met Blair Underwood, her boss's family, including her 9-year-old daughter, and her birthday's coming up. And the girl at the time, Lee is very like socially awkward, and the girl's like, will you come to my birthday party? And Lee's like, yeah, I'll be there. Well, that's happening right now. So she runs over to this house, and guess who's there? The mom with a doll. She's already delivered it.
Yeah.
And everybody's acting fucking weird.
They're like hypnotized.
Yes. Everyone is.
Yeah.
And so Lee's like, get away, mom, get out of here. Like, she's talking to her boss. I forgot what his name is in this movie. What's his name?
Agent Carter.
Agent Carter. She's like, Carter, back off. Like, and it turns out that Carter's like, hey, he tells his wife, let's go and cut the cake. And he's acting like menacing, like angry. Mm-hmm. They go in to the kitchen.
They go into the kitchen, yeah. And basically, the mom says that she's already dead.
Well, you hear her being murdered.
Yeah.
So he's killing his wife. He's obviously going to come back. So this is exactly a Longlegs killing. The husband kills the wife and the child, and then kills himself. He comes
No, he
back
doesn't.
out.
He doesn't kill himself. He comes out. He's got the knife,
He's
and
going. Yeah,
Lee shoots him.
that's right. She
Yeah,
shoots him, and then what happens, dude?
dude, she ends up capping her own mom.
Yeah, because her mom takes a knife out. She's like, don't spoil the plan. She's like, I did this for you. I had to keep you safe. I had to do this. I've been doing this for 20 years.
That was just as startling as the first killing of Lee's partner at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
It was very reminiscent, like as a callback to that in a weird way.
Right.
And it turns out that this was the twist that I didn't see coming. So up until this point, the whole movie felt like Silence of the Lambs. This is going to be a true crime movie, right? And then we find out that Longlegs is basically like Satan in a way, and he's possessing these families, and so you get a supernatural feel to it. Which that was the twist I didn't see coming.
Yeah,
but it was cool. It was nice to not be able to predict the way the movie was going to go. So oftentimes with these horror movies, you can you kind of been through the beats, you know what's going to happen, but this one kept me guessing the whole way through.
Yeah, so she kills her mom, and then she grabs the daughter, her boss's daughter, and they leave, and then it cuts to Cage, and he's like, "Hail Satan!"
Yeah,
and you're like, "Fuck!" And it's the T-Rex song, "Bang a Gong" comes on. I go, "Oh my god, this fucking movie's insane." But really, to your point, Cage is like a secondary part of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's really like the thing that I thought was interesting was like, this is a commentary kind of on like what parents do to keep their children safe. Like, what would they do? Because really, the mom is like, I'll do this. I guess I have to. I'm not going to let you kill my child. So if that means I got to kill other people, that's fine.
So be it.
Yeah, which is crazy, but like, I'm not a parent, but I assume at some point, if I ever am, I would maybe feel that way. I don't know. I'm sure parents do feel that way. Hey, my kid comes before everybody else. I get it. So that's like an interesting like twist to it.
This is basically the same plot from The Land Before Time.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
I was 10.
Well, Littlefoot's mom like fights Sharptooth and saves the day and
you know the character names?
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, once again, people are stealing the plot from The Land Before Time.
Dude, this movie ripped. It rules.
Hey, what was your favorite scene?
The first 5 minutes.
Oh, really?
Fuck yeah.
My favorite scene is at some point in the movie they show Cage like kind of singing and dancing.
Yeah,
and that was the most Cage-esque moment where it felt like, oh, that's Nick Cage.
Yeah,
but that was my favorite scene. That one made me laugh a little.
Yeah, and there was like a picture of like Lou Reed. Did you catch that? There's like a Lou Reed picture. Like, so I got this like kind of glam rock feel from him, where it was like he wanted to be something maybe that he isn't, and that's why you got the bad plastic surgery. And he's like this artist who makes these dolls, but he's a fucking creep. And it's just like they did a good job of giving you hints to a backstory, but no story at all. Like you don't get anything.
Yes. So overall, this movie felt like you said, all right, so it feels like Silence of the Lambs. It feels like Seven. It feels like Zodiac. It feels like, what else did we say? It feels like Sinister. It feels like...
did you say Seven?
Yeah, Seven. It feels like there's another one that it just kind of combines all of these eerie things together.
I got one for you.
Yeah.
Did you watch the show Mindhunter?
Yeah. It feels like Charles Manson. It feels like Mindhunter. This is the vibe, and it's all set to the plot of The Land Before Time.
There you go. That's it.
That's this movie, bro.
I mean, so all of those movies, I think, have at least one shot, if not multiple shots, of a car driving down a dark highway. That's like desolate trees on the side of it, and that there's like 5 of those shots in this movie.
Yeah.
Mindhunter for me was like a big one. I was like, oh, this is very like.
When will we get season 3?
I don't think ever it did.
It's gonna be.
It's a masterpiece.
It's gonna be like what was that other show he did? Is he the one that's responsible for Twin Peaks?
No, that's David Lynch.
Different director. It's gonna
Mindhunter
be
is David Fincher.
all right. So it's gonna be like David Lynch, where David Lynch came back like
25
however
years
many,
later.
25 years later to do another season.
Yeah.
They need to jump on that before
It's so good.
Before those actors get too old. They're gonna come back and they're gonna be like, this doesn't even look like the same people.
Yeah. It's awesome. I mean, I don't know what else to say about this movie except go see it. It's really good.
See it.
It's an entertaining, interesting movie. It's not too scary for you. If you're not a horror person, it's not like straight horror. It's really not. There's some grisly stuff in it, and there's some creepy stuff, but it's not like it's an intense thriller to me with horror elements.
Yeah, love it. Hey, what would you rate it? 1 through 5.
5.
Dang, you give it a full
Great.
5?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd give it a full 5. I'd give it like a 4.8.
Wow. Okay. What's the 2 percentage points off for?
The supernatural twist. I think I would have liked it more without that. It was cool and it changed it up, but that part felt just a little disconnected from the rest of the story.
Okay, I can see that. That's fair.
And so it felt like it was like nothing felt supernatural before that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that like people are. I've seen some stuff that's like this is the scariest movie of the year, and then other people are like it's not that. It's like okay, I agree, it's not the scariest movie I've ever seen or anything like that, but it is stronger at making you feel this doom and dread than most movies of this genre, in my opinion. Agreed. It really works to build that.
Yeah, It Follows has got the same kind of vibe too.
Yeah, I think it does. I think the really like high level movies like this, they do. And that's why you don't get them very often, because I think it's hard to do. You got to keep that tension throughout the whole movie. You know, they don't shoot movies in sequential order. You know, right. You've got to show up every day, however long it takes to shoot these movies, and like get this same feeling all the time. And it really, the music does it, the way the camera is set does it, the actors do it, the landscape, the setting, it's dark and gloomy and snowy and nobody's around. It's really good. Much attention to detail. And I think that's like what knocks it out of the park for me.
I think it's the smaller studios or the less big budget popcorn flicks where they kind of get more creative freedom to do stuff like this, which makes better movies.
The biggest opening for any Neon film ever. Neon is like a small studio, but it's like a well-known studio. This is their biggest opening weekend of all time.
Oh, that's awesome. I hope that is a telltale of what's to come in the future from studios.
For sure. Yeah, man. Final thoughts? Anything else?
No. We'll be back with season 4, and I believe the first movie we're going to be doing is going to be the masterpiece. I can barely say it. Steven Seagal's Under Siege. Yeah. The best movie he made, and it's also because he's in it the least of most of his starring roles. So we'll talk about why. Remember to follow us on Instagram at _prime _cut _podcast, the prime cut podcast at gmail.com for complaints, which we delete, but we love praise. We love recommendations. We love ad requests. If you want us to sell something, we'd be happy to, I don't know, roll out the red carpet for your product. We also started a YouTube for season 4, Greg, which means we have one video. That's it. But that is, let me get this right, at the Prime Cut Podcast. So if you Google the Prime, or if you go to YouTube and search the Prime Cut Podcast, you will find our page. We have one video. It is the Crow episode. We're slowly going to start uploading all of the kind of like the backlog of
back catalog of other videos. It's just a raw Greg and I talking, or Paul and I talking. We're going to start uploading those, but that's going to be part of our. We've gotten some people saying, "Hey, we'd love to watch you guys talk about this stuff," which is complimentary and kind of interesting. I don't know, but we're doing it. So videos coming. What else, Greg?
We'll make it extra easy for people. We'll put the link to the YouTube at the top of our Instagram.
Yeah, perfect. I got to figure out how to do that. Once I do, it'll be available.
All right, Joe. That's all I got.
Yeah, we're going to keep. Hey, you know what? The other thing, if people like this kind of like new thing where we do like a movie that's out and we both see it, we might try an angle for this if there's stuff that's good. So we'll see how it goes as far as the feedback is. I don't know if you guys like the old stuff, the new stuff. We're going to try and mix it up for you this year. So follow us, like, subscribe, and we'll talk to you next time.
Later.